Hey guys, so today is Friday, June 5th, 2026, and we are going to start off like I usually like to start off with our day one convective outlook for the day. So we have a slight risk extending from parts of southern Iowa, northern Missouri, southern Nebraska, and then into parts of even northern Kansas, northeastern Kansas here. So I'll go ahead and outline part of that. So yeah, this is the part of that's in north central and northeastern Kansas here, and then we have a marginal risk kind of going outside of that one here. Quickly outline that here, but from anywhere in here has a marginal chance to see some severe weather today. So let's start off with our probabilities. Tornado is not very high today, just a low. Isolated 2% risk here, extending maybe into parts of far northeastern, like far extreme northern Kansas maybe, so getting in there a little bit, but I really don't expect too high of a tornado threat for Kansas today. Wind, we have a hatched wind risk here, so hold up. We have a SIG 1 hatched wind risk here, which is the threat for winds up to 70 miles an hour, I believe. So we have a SIG 1 wind threat that does not extend into Kansas. That's mainly eastern Nebraska and western Iowa. And then we have a 10% wind risk. I believe 15%, sorry. So we have a 15% wind risk that goes into parts of northern and northeastern Kansas. And then we have our 5% just basically marginal wind threat surrounding that goes into kind of parts of even western Kansas a little bit, and then also northern, northeastern Kansas, same areas there. Hail, we have a SIG 1 hail risk, which I believe is 1.5 inches in diameter. I may be wrong about that, so don't fully count on that because I may be wrong about that, but here's our SIG 1 threat, which goes kind of, again, into parts of northern and northeastern Kansas. And then we have that slight risk, just a general slight risk surrounding that. So a 10%, I think. Nope, still 15%. Never mind. Anyway, we have a 15% risk surrounding that, and then a 5% risk surrounding that. That, again, kind of covers those same areas in Kansas as that wind risk goes. So let me pull up some models and we'll start actually digging into that for today. So first thing we're going to start out by looking at is our moisture return for today. So this is the NAM model again. The ARRR model is working. I want to look at a little bit more of a mid-range model because the ARRR doesn't quite get out as far as I kind of need it to go. So we're going to look at this mid-range model again for today's setup and everything. So here's our slight risk. Our marginal risk obviously is outside of this. Of course, mainly I'm focused on the Kansas side of the severe weather. Give me a minute here. There we go. Decent moisture return. We have values about low 60s to 70s, like in northeastern Kansas, so like Kansas City, Manhattan, if you will, some of those areas, Holton, Atchison, some of those areas. So yeah, we have somewhat decent moisture return, and this would be as of actually that was midnight this morning. So decent moisture return at that time. As we fast forward, this would be around noon. This would be around noon. So we have a still very decent moisture return overall in this portion of Kansas here. Now we're averaging about, I would say, maybe mid to high 60s to about like mid 70s. So even dew points of like 73, 74 in certain areas, which that's definitely good moisture return, appreciable moisture return. As we continue to go throughout the day, that definitely kind of gets higher, especially in northeastern Kansas. This corridor here of Kansas, that definitely broader area outside of that too, but mainly I'm looking in our risk area. This corridor here that I kind of circled, the dew points definitely get elevated in that area. So let's continue to go through the day. This is about 4 o'clock this afternoon, so 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, here we go. Still good moisture return, appreciable on that side. 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and then 10 o'clock, 11, 12, and then after about 11 o'clock, our moisture drops a little bit in certain areas. Still, I would say, good moisture return, although obviously the severe threat probably will drop off, of course, like much later into the night, regardless of some parameters that are still good. So let's see, we're gonna take this kind of off here because we're done looking at moisture for a minute. So now we are going to look at mixed layer CAPE here. So this is, again, as of midnight, decent CAPE up over in like areas like Concordia, Salina, Hutchinson, even through Wichita, Emporia, even Topeka. Decent CAPE at that time. So actually somewhat decent instability for being at like 12 a.m. this morning. As we continue to go through the day, it kind of drops off a little bit here. But then I would say that peak instability time would be from about maybe 11 o'clock, probably through about maybe 8 o'clock tonight. But I want you to definitely watch how that high instability really starts to filter in around noon or so. I mean, look, we're up to max, like we're up to a corridor of 5,000 plus joules per kilogram of CAPE, which definitely very, very, very high instability. When you start getting like 5,000 plus joules per kilogram, even 4,000 joules per kilogram is considered strong CAPE. But even into like areas where we're really not expecting thunderstorms, really, even like southeast Kansas. But really, and this is what I was kind of highlighting on yesterday, but kind of have that very kind of widespread corridor of high CAPE all through here. So yeah, very, very appreciable instability today for storm development. We go ahead and put our day one convective outlook back up. So yeah, very, very, very strong area of instability, very appreciable area of instability. It peaks, I'd say it probably peaks more like maybe extreme northeastern Kansas and like parts of eastern Nebraska. I mean, we're getting up here in like very northeastern Kansas. We're getting up over 5,000 joules per kilogram, which again, like I said, 5,000 joules per kilogram is considered on its own extreme CAPE, but now we're getting over that level. So yeah, obviously instability should not be a problem for the storm environment today. And again, that kind of area kind of narrows a little bit and starts dropping off about I'd say 10 or 11 o'clock tonight is probably when that kind of starts dropping down maybe a little bit. But yeah, so there's your mixed layer atmospheric instability for today. So now I'm going to take a look at mixed layer convective inhibition, which if you want kind of an explanation on what some of these parameters are, I gave it in my last forecasting video I did from yesterday. But anyway, we're going to take a look at our capping inversion or our convective inhibition today. This was at about 7 o'clock this morning. You can see a decent cap over at least parts of this slight risk here. More over that western sector of our today's slight risk. You can kind of see a capping inversion in place now. Now, I want you to kind of pay attention to this capping inversion as we continue moving through the late morning in the day. That cap obviously really doesn't drop off today till like after afternoon. So like around 1 o'clock is maybe when that cap starts to erode a little bit, and I'd say about maybe like 3 or maybe like 2 or 3 o'clock. Or no, maybe like 4 or 5 o'clock is when that cap mostly erodes across most areas of today's severe weather risk area. And then that cap actually does end up building in by about maybe like 10 o'clock or like, not 9 o'clock. Maybe is when that cap kind of starts building back in a little bit again. But definitely a window from about maybe like I don't know, noon for sure. Maybe about like noonish to maybe noon to like yeah, so I guess that window would probably be starting like about maybe 3 to maybe like 10. So yeah, that's kind of that window. I think is maybe about 3 to about 10, 11 o'clock maybe for parts of Kansas. So anyway, yeah, there's your mixed layer convective inhibition or your capping inversion there. So this is our 0 to 6 kilometer bulk shear. Again, if you want kind of an explanation on that, go to the video I made yesterday. But this is about as of midnight this morning. Somewhat, of course, modest shear. I mean, it was like midnight, so but somewhat modest shear across the risk area. Not bad when you get in areas like Hayes, Manhattan, Oberlin, I guess. Yeah, Hoxie. Some of those areas, Manhattan. Not as bad when you get into maybe some of those areas. Now, as we go throughout the day here, that shear kind of drops off a little bit in some of these areas of at least the Kansas portion of the risk area, except for maybe like areas in Hayes, Beloit, some of those areas. Again, it's not too bad. About 35 knots is what you would want maybe for like supercellular development. So again, not terrible shear in some of these areas. As we continue going through the day, so this is now getting into kind of the afternoon. That shear really starts dropping off a little bit, at least on the Kansas side of things. Not the most favorable look, kind of similar to what yesterday was. And I think that's definitely what might hold back that tornado threat a little bit today, is just that shear not being very strong shear for today. I think that might hold it back at least a little bit. Now, I do want you to know, kind of around, this would be about 4 o'clock. Yeah, 4 o'clock. That shear kind of slightly starts to maybe fill in some of these areas again, and especially around like Manhattan, Beloit, Emporia, some of these areas, even outside the risk area. That shear really starts to kind of continue to filter into the area, and we kind of start to get a decent, or at least modest, better looking shear, even though it's still not the greatest. But we're starting to get kind of some better shear vectors here in northeast Kansas and some of these areas, and especially in the like southeast Nebraska. There's some areas, some pockets of really enhanced shear. And then as the night continues to go on, by maybe 10, 11, 12, so midnight, that shear kind of starts to drop off there. So yeah, that's your 0 to 6 kilometer bulk shear for today's setup. Okay, so I'm going to show 2 different scenarios this time for just reflectivity. First, we are going to show the HRRR model from model run from 6 a.m. this morning. As you can see, really not a whole lot of convection built in for today. This actually shows everything maybe on a more isolated base. Well, mainly on the Kansas side. Nebraska and like parts of Missouri, you kind of still get in on that a little bit, kind of up maybe through this corridor, and even over here, like areas like Peoria, Davenport, some of those areas maybe over here. But as far as the Kansas side goes, you really don't get into a whole lot of action like throughout the whole night. It's showing really not a lot of convection going up for you. So we'll have to see how that scenario evolves over time. Personally, I think that there will end up being at least some storms on the Kansas side, at least a few. Of course, the longevity of those, maybe not as much, but I do feel like at least a few would probably fire on the Kansas side, though. Although, again, that will have to be, like, that will remain to, I guess, be seen as time goes on. But anyway, I'm going to show you one more model real quick. We're going to go back to our NAM model here. This is, let's see, so we're going to go back in time again. So this is about noon. Yeah, this is about noon here. Let me get it. Actually, no, it's about 3 o'clock here. So storms kind of build back through Colorado here, at least based on this 12 a.m. run of the NAM model. Hold up. There we go. Drop my pen. Anyway, so they start to build around 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, according to the NAM model, and then they start building in maybe to that marginal risk by about 4 o'clock. So these kind of almost little pop-up storms here, these could have maybe a marginalized severe risk if they do kind of fire up and everything. Those could have just that marginal hail wind risk maybe, but I don't think really anything would start happening until they really start pushing into that marginal and even that slight risk. So this is about 5 o'clock now. 6 o'clock, we have a few potentially severe storms around like Phillipsburg, Norton, some of those areas. So again, this is let's see, so this is as of about what would be 6 o'clock. So again, those storms kind of Smith Center, Phillipsburg, some of those areas again. So again, this is as of 6 o'clock here, some of the storms, Phillipsburg and everything. Then as we kind of keep going, we have maybe a little kind of QLCS kind of squall line feature developing here through southeast Nebraska, and with time that will continue to kind of advance into northeastern parts of Kansas. And I think at least part of this, if this scenario turns out true, at least part of this system definitely could stay severe and pose that damaging wind risk. I think for sure pose that damaging wind risks. So this is as of about 9 o'clock. So now 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. I think after probably 10 o'clock, the severe threat on the Kansas side for sure drops off. Again, like I said, keep in mind on the Kansas side, I think it really does start to drop off after about 10 o'clock or so. But anyway, again, so yeah, there's two different scenarios that could play out for today. Just kind of stay aware to what the weather looks like today and everything. But for now, I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. And I think that's going to bring me to the end of my forecast here. So hopefully you find this information useful to you, and you can use it to make sound decisions based on the weather and everything. And for now, that's all from me, and I will see you in my next severe weather video. All right, see ya.